I'll be quite frank with you. We changed what we were going to do on account that we thought that the House manager's presentation was well done. We are generally a social people. We enjoy being around one another. Senators of the United States, they're not ordinary people. And boy, this is a diverse group. We still know what records are, right? On the thing you put the needle down on and you play it. I worked in this building 40 years ago. I got lost then, and I still do. I represent the great state of fill in the blank. I saw a headline, Representative so-and-so seeks to walk back comments about, I forget what it was, something that bothered her. I don't want to steal the thunder from the other lawyers, but Nebraska, you're going to hear, is quite a judicial thinking place. If the individual state legislatures didn't adopt the Constitution, we would not have it. The floodgates will open. As I was going to say originally, it will release the whirlwind. But I subsequently learned since I got here that that particular phrase has already been taken, so I figured I better change it to floodgates.
Boo! Bruce Castor not getting paid by Trump. Yes, it is Friday, February 12th, 2021. That was Bruce Castor, PA's own, everybody. And Pennsylvania takes a central role in the impeachment. Oh, God. Welcome to Raging Chicken's Out the Coop podcast. This is Kevin Mahoney, editor and founder of Raging Chicken Press. Each week, I talk to unemployed Trump staffer Sean Kitchen about the good, the bad, and the ugly in state and national politics. On today's show, it's impeachment week. Again, House managers presented incredibly compelling and powerful arguments that Trump incited insurrection. And I say that without sarcasm, irony, or anything. I truly mean that. It was impressive. And Montgomery County's own Bruce Castor told stories of his childhood and made sure everyone knew that Nebraska was a very judicial thinking place, as you heard. And during what was pretty much across the board agreed upon an embarrassing ramble of an opening quote-unquote argument in defense of Trump. It's pretty incredible. Today, the Trump's defense is taking a stand right about now, actually about an hour from when we're starting a recording today. And whatever. I don't even know what to say about this, but they said they're, we're only going to take a few hours. They're granted 16 hours. They're only going to take a few hours. I think they're throwing in the towel ahead of time. I'm sure that Trump probably told them, say, no, you're not getting paid by the hour. So they're like, oh, screw it. Then we're just going to do this. Anyways, we'll get into that. Amazon has hired an anti-union consultant to try to destroy unionizing efforts in Bessemer, Alabama fulfillment center. This is according to new reporting by Lee Fong in The Intercept. The consultant, Russell Brown, runs the anti-union firm RWP Labor, which specializes in, quote, maintaining a union-free workplace, unquote. Brown is also president of the Koch, as in Koch brothers, Koch brother-funded anti-union think tank, the Center for Independent Employees. Yes, indeed. Well, that may be the case, but over 5,800 workers at the Alabama Amazon Fulfillment Center received mail-in ballots last Monday. If the majority of workers vote for the union, it would become the first unionized Amazon workplace in the country. The union, Retail, Wholesale, and Department Store Union, or the RWDSU, also represents 12,000 poultry workers in Alabama. According to a report in Wired, reports of the safety protections won by the unionized RWDSU poultry workers led to workers at Amazon to reach out to that union to help with their own organizing efforts. See that? Organizing builds on organizing. You show people wins, and people want to win too. Not in the Trump fashion. And House Democrats and the Congressional Progressive Caucus fought to include raising the $15 minimum wage in the COVID relief package. Freaking huge. That's amazing. I mean, I got to say, this has been an impressive beginning. Now, there's a lot to pick on. For example, Neera Tandem going before the hearings to get approval this week. But whatever. there's some real good wins here that I think gives progressives all that much more leverage in moving forward. I'm really excited. Today, a little bit closer to home, PA proud. Yes, Pennsylvania ranks number 2 in the country. You got that? Number 2 in the country when it comes to the number of residents who have been arrested from the January 6th insurrection. Capital Region stands up and Pennsylvania stands up, placed billboards around the Pennsylvania 10th Congressional District calling on Scott Perry to resign. Yes, if you've been listening and been following the podcast from week to week, Scott Perry is a target because Scott Perry, yes, once again, has got his hands over the insurrection. That's right. And the attempts to undermine the election. And attempts to blah, blah, blah. We'll go on and on. But click the link and look at the amazing design. That's right, we got a link in the show notes today. Lieutenant Governor John Fetterman officially announced his 2022 campaign for the United States Senate. And the first week was a little rocky as archived video of Fetterman's time as mayor of Braddock circulated on social media. We'll talk a little about that. House and Senate Democrats continue their calls for an investigation into Senator Doug Mastriano's role in the January 6th insurrection and for his expulsion from the Pennsylvania Senate. They want him out. Pennsylvania House Republicans continue their voter fraud hearings and attempt to undermine the 2020 election. Can you believe this? PA Spotlight published a report this week highlighting House State Democrat... Let me start that again. Pennsylvania Spotlight, PA Spotlight, published a report this week highlighting House State Government Committee Chair Seth Grove's role to undermine the 2020 election. Representative Grove is a board member with the American Legislative Exchange Council, and he's been working with ALEC and Koch operatives to undermine the 2020 election since August 2019. Right? There you go. Good old Seth Grove. And Representative Malcolm Kenyatta is going to be the keynote speaker at today's Gender and Sexual Minorities Conference at Kutztown University. Very awesome. We reached out to Representative Kenyatta to see if we can get some follow-up on that. So pretty awesome. If I was not with Sean right now recording this episode, I would be watching that conference right now through Zoom. It's pretty awesome that he's going to be at Kutztown, and I know a lot of people are going to turn out for him. 28 state legislators release a call to action for a people's budget. While praising much of Governor Wolf's new budget, the group writes that, quote, as a Commonwealth, we need to reject austerity, wasteful spending, and unstable revenue streams, such as fracking. We are guided by the urgent need to invest in people over big corporations. We believe any budget must focus on working people across the state and the systems and programs that could support workers to recuperate from this devastating pandemic that has touched all corners of our state. Awesome. We'll be following that closely too. Omar Ray. Yes, Omar Ray is preparing to launch his campaign for Lehigh Valley County Commissioner on February 18th at 7 p.m. Just click in the show notes. You can kind of join that. It's going to be a Facebook Live event. Probably broadcasting elsewhere too as well, but it's a Facebook event. You check out, join that, find out what's going on there. Ray hopes to, as a community activist and he's a progressive, Ray hopes to be part of the Lehigh Valley's growing list of progressive elected officials. So I'm very excited. Hopefully we'll get a chance to talk to Omar as his campaign launches. And Posse Chancellor Greenstein was back in the Capitol to update legislators about plans to consolidate universities. Lots of spin, few specific, unicorns everywhere. In today's last call, fuck Tom Brady. That's all I'm going to say. Gotta admit, the big game. Kind of watched it out of the corner of my eye. I was doing a lot of other stuff there, but man, whatever. So we'll jump right to the beer, shall we? Don't have a whole lot of space news today, but Free World Brewing had to temporarily limit access after an employee tested positive for COVID. They are back up and running now. As soon as they learned of it, they alerted everybody about it, which is exactly what you want to see. Made sure that they were kind of cleared. Everyone is now, all their employees have now tested negative, which is fantastic. Kudos to them for taking that bull by the horns, and appreciate the public communication and everything. Is also, right in my hometown, it's always good to know that you got people looking out for the community. Well, they are back up and running just in time for Valentine's Day, and all this weekend, Trey Locally Sourced will be parked out front in the main brewery in Percy with a scrumptious food menu. And we got some releases to talk about. Yes, this weekend, tomorrow, Saturday, Blackberry Raspberry Mash will be available. Oh, this is such a good one. I also saw, this week, and I was trying to look for it here, the black currant chocolate mash is absolutely fantastic. You've heard me talk about it before. I had the last one that I have in my house. I had it last night, and it just is so good. But anyways, maybe some of those. Now, since they had to close early last week, they still have some of the releases from last week, right? So if you remember, last Friday we were hoping to find out what was going to be released, but they held the release back until Saturday, so we didn't know about it before the show. But they've got a beer called 35. It is an American double IPA, and that is brewed with a variety of favorite hops from around the globe. We'll talk a little about that one. It looks really good. And a favorite, all-time favorite of Juice Money that is also still available at both locations. Very happy to see them up and running. And as usual, you can check out all their stuff that they've got by going to freewillbrewing.store, or is it store.freewillbrewing? I'll put the link in the show notes. We'll come back to it in the last call. But definitely check them out online. You can order online. If you hit that $85 order, you get free shipping anywhere in Pennsylvania. And I believe DC and Virginia now, too, as well. Pretty cool. Oh, Sean's back. Look at that. I turned off his picture now. So I was like, where did Sean go? He went away. I want to remind everybody to tune in to the Rick Smith Show on Free Speech TV this and every Saturday at 7 p.m. Eastern. You can stream the show live at freespeech.org or tune in on the Dish Network, DirecTV, or through the Free Speech TV app on Roku. And make sure to subscribe to the Rick Smith Show's daily podcast on iTunes, Podbean, wherever you get your podcasts. And hey, everybody, on this coming week's Out to Coop Live, we still have... I'm juggling 3 different invites from people, and to see if we can nail somebody down for Monday. Hopefully, I don't want to kind of spoil it ahead of time, but just in case who goes on here, and I don't want to misspeak too as well. So I'll let you know. Look through our social media channels. Maybe I'll put up a little bit of an announcement on YouTube and Facebook ahead of Monday's show, but I'm really looking forward to some of the plans that we've got of people coming up in the next few weeks. If we want a progressive future, we need progressive media. You can help support Pull No Punches homegrown progressive media today. Become a member of Raging Chicken for as little as $5 a month. Just go to patreon.com/rcpress and choose your level of patronage. We're expanding our network as we prepare for the fight of our lives and a fight for our future. We're in it right now, folks. Is it? We need you. We're not asking you to break the bank. We're asking you to become a member for the price of a good beer once a month. Help keep the media in the movement the media. Become a member for a little $5 a month by going to patreon.com/rcpress today. And if you're watching us right on YouTube right now, hey everybody, to our YouTube listeners, watchers, viewers, however you want to talk about it. You also know that, look, if you're not ready to become a member, become a patron, you can always go right now. You can actually go to paypal.me/rcpress. That's paypal.me/rcpress, and you can kind of donate anything at any level of $2, $5, $100 if you wanted to. One-time only donations will be taken there too as well. But the best way you can help support progressive media and keeping it live and kicking is by becoming a patron by going to patreon.com/rcpress today. Well, hey, Sean, man, how you doing?
I'm pretty good. How are you?
I'm pretty good. It's been a decent week, I have to say. Busy, lots of stuff going on, but lots of encouraging signs. We've got this cold that we quite can't shake from the last administration that seems to be hanging on, like as a something. But what are you going to do? It is what it is. But yeah, so what's the week like been for you so far?
Pretty good. Not a whole lot going on. Just doing the usual.
Doing the usual.
I watched some of the impeachment trial this week. Didn't watch the opening arguments. Unfortunately, I missed like Bruce Castor and all that stuff. But
well, I gave you the best stuff, right? So I gave you the best stuff at the top of the show today. So I couldn't resist that.
But no, not a whole lot going on. Just waiting until March and the spring gets here. Pretty much at this point, kind of over the weather. Just waiting for the spring to get here and be able to be outside and stuff like that. So
Yeah,
I've been just cooped up and waiting.
Well, I've been being inundated with gardening magazines. Have been showing up at my house, which has got me itching to get back out there. So
nice. I've been like spending my free time like looking up like one pot meal recipes and stuff like that, and I'm putting together an herb garden this year, so for my deck. So I'm definitely looking for like some plants to hang on my balcony or the deck or on the rail. So like, when I get stuff like thyme, basil, rosemary and stuff like that, and, be able to have some nice herbs growing and be able to cook with that shit in the spring and summer and the fall as well.
Nothing like fresh herbs, man. That's absolutely the case.
Oh yeah.
I had when I lived in DC, I had this, I planted rosemary, right? I didn't have like a ton of space, but I had like right along a fence that ran along the alleyway, right? It was just like a chain link fence, and it got sun for a good chunk of the day, right? So I planted rosemary there. I had a rosemary bush that was like a house shrub, right? The thing was amazing, and it thrived in this location. It's like, it was great. And I brought that to Allentown with me. It survived in Allentown, but it did not survive at the bottom of the valley here in Percy. But whatever. So
that sucks.
It's funny though. It loved poor conditions. If you had like by roads and gravelly, not great soil and you got a lot of sun, it would love it. But needed that.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely looking forward to that. Looking forward to the spring getting here. Get my deck in order. I'm going to be getting some. We'll get a grill at some point next month. So yeah, looking forward to that. Can't wait.
Excellent. Well, yeah. So let's get into it a little bit. So, this week was impeachment week, and we saw the opening arguments, and then the House managers, right? Basically the prosecution in this case, made up of the Democrats from the House who were kind of pleading the case, took turns to make a case that yes, Donald Trump deserves to kind of be found guilty, and then be kind of stripped of any ability to run for office in the future. And I've got to say, it was incredibly compelling and well done, which I was not expecting, I got to say.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, no, it's exactly right. I mean, I was glued to the TV. I watched the opening video that they played in the opening arguments was just like that 13-minute video was insane. MSNBC ran it that night, so I watched it like in its entirety on Chris Hayes' show. That was like stunning to watch. But also I watched the like second day pretty much the whole entire day glued to my TV, and it's compelling watching it, but also like made me reflect on like this past year, like, and having a front row seat to this. Like I watched, like I attended a lot of these events as an observer, and like put on Facebook, and one of my friends like it's like reflecting on a car crash or 3 or 4 that you've been in.
Right.
Like this whole entire year, just like, it allowed me to reflect on like the fact that like, yeah, I watched this history unfold, like with the reopen movements and the other rallies that were happening over the summer. And then, moving into them, actively undermining the election.
Right.
Like, remember going on press conferences on the Capitol steps, watching Democrats scream about this and, talking to a couple of House members like Kevin Boyle this week, who has been, screaming about this since like September that they were going to do this, and talking about in committee that they were, active on social media saying the Republicans are moving to undermine this election and try to steal it from us. And this is what they're doing. And, then going to the Stop the Steal rallies and the riot that we were almost caught up in that Saturday after the election, once it was called. And like, and then seeing Nick Fuentes
Right.
in Harrisburg, his videos were used in this impeachment trial. Like I witnessed this like up close and personal, and it was just weird. It was just something else being able to see that like unfold in an impeachment trial. Like these weren't the things that like happened, like specifically cited, but like I watched the coup attempt
Right.
unfold before our eyes. Like
Right.
we were talking, like Roxbury and I have been saying this, like once it started, like this started Trump's coup. Like when the Jericho March people showed up in Harrisburg on November 8th, and you're seeing like that reporting coming out now, like there were Trump administration members, like federal employees working for the federal government in Harrisburg on November 8th
Yep.
with the Jericho March. You know, it was, you could tell it was obviously AstroTurf from the beginning, but like we thought these people were just like fucking crazy and not going to do anything about it. But like, no, I mean, like they drove like the Christian white nationalism and, you know, the Stop the Steal and having Jim Jordan and Scott Perry and seeing what Scott Perry did. Like this wasn't just Trump. This was a whole entire institutional push from
Right.
the Republican Party to steal the election.
Yep. Absolutely.
And, like, not just steal the election, but also plan a violent insurrection. This wasn't Trump. Like, you know, like everyone is responsible for this. Like, and it was something else just being able to see that retold by the House managers on the Senate floor with all this.
Yeah. It does have that, you know, and you know, you heard similar stories from both, say, staffers and representatives in the Capitol when they were actually watching those hearings too, as well.
I mean, the videos of like how close Mike Pence or Chuck Schumer and others came from getting killed by that mob.
Right.
Like, you know, I was talking to Roxbury about it. Like, yeah, it died down within an hour, but like that initial rush of people into the Capitol were the Proud Boys, the Oath Keepers, and like those were the people that was the lynch mob that was seeking blood.
Right.
I mean, like,
exactly.
Like they, and they're like and what's going to happen here? Yeah, I'll let you go, but like, go on. But like, it's just like, you know, they're not going to convict Trump. We know that.
Yeah, I think that's right. I mean, like
this is the closest thing to a Truth and Reconciliation Commission that we're going to get, and we absolutely needed to get this. And the Democrats, you know, did an amazing job putting this together.
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, the reason I was bringing up the stuff what the legislator said, because I think that you make a good point, right? Is I think that for a lot of folks who were in the Capitol and for a lot of people that have been maybe, you know, that weren't there on that day, but people like you, right? You know, people who have been, you know, in states watching this unfold, the way that they presented that case, especially that second day, it just,
like the bus getting ran off the road in Texas.
Well, that's what I mean. Is like they put everything in such context that let me start from a different place. This is kind of what I mean. Is like it's so often the case that when you're trying to get people to see this kind of stuff, right? When you're in the moment, you're saying, just like you said, you and Roxbury sitting around basically saying, "Hey, there's a coup. This is the beginning of the coup," right? And then you have other people that look at you like, whatever, crazy people, right?
I know, like that. There were responses talking to some members, you know, in the legislature that like their own colleagues thought that they were wearing tinfoil hats
exactly
when they were like, and they refused to see this happen, or they refused to believe that like this is where the Republican Party is going, because these Democrats in office are so ingrained into believing that the institution and that their friends in the Republican Party wouldn't do such a thing when they did. And they were doing it and they told everyone about it and they fucking did it anyway.
Exactly.
And like, it's gut check time for the Democratic Party. And it's gut check time for these institutionalists within the Democratic Party who think that they can get away with working with the Republicans from here on out.
Well, that's why, you know, I was a little bit like frustrated a couple times in some of the coverage of the hearings when, particularly on stuff on MSNBC, but you also saw it on CNN, the other like broadcast networks too as well, where you'd see like these go-to senators of like, you know, Chris Coons, right? Christopher Murphy, right? Going to these people who are the kind of like, hey, I talked to my Republican friends behind the scenes. They're really concerned privately about it too as well. And those voices, and I don't mean to suggest that they were the only ones that were saying that, not at all. But when I would see them come on and be given a particular spotlight and they're talking about, like my friends and all this stuff, it rang so hollow to hear that kind of perspective in
like
the
your
midst
friends
of all
did nothing
this.
to stand up and stop a coup.
Well, that's exactly. It's like, so their playbook was not functioning right this week. And so for other people, I mean, we talked about this last week when AOC went to like the Instagram live stream and talked about her experiences, when Rashida Tlaib came forward and talked about why she stayed away from the Capitol on February 6th because she was afraid for her life. When we saw, like Katie Porter come on and talking about like her experience, person after person coming forward, it just, those voices, I think, were given that much more legitimacy this week when all this stuff was put into context.
And then also like the stories from the Capitol from the pool reporters saying that like that there were obviously like Republican senators, not we're talking about like Holyoke Cruz and them who just didn't pay the fuck attention the whole time. But
Right.
there were Republican senators who were like absolutely shocked from seeing the videos that were played because it was the first time that they saw the videos.
Right.
Which goes to show you how fucking out of it the Republican media
That's right.
and the right-wing infrastructure is. Like they've been ignoring this the whole entire time. So if you're just consuming right-wing news the whole entire time, you didn't see these videos that we've been watching and the rest of the world's been watching. Like you've walled yourself off from that. You've completely like removed yourself from that reality.
Yeah.
And like that was the first time that they saw those videos.
Right. And in many cases,
like a cop getting his eyes gouged or like getting crushed in the doors. Or, like the police officer getting beat on the ground with the hockey stick, the body cam footage.
the body cam footage of that was horrifying. I mean, it was bad enough seeing. It was bad enough.
I mean, it was like a medieval movie. It was like something you saw in the movies from a medieval battle.
That's exactly what I was thinking. But did you also notice that like on this, and it must be part of the program of the body cam. It was also like this like horror video game thing because like there was kept on this recognizing kind of threats, like recognizing things. And
you saw the hockey stick, the blade of the stick coming down,
like kind of the little recognition of this thing coming, like incoming. Basically, it was absolutely horrifying. And I'm glad it was there. And there were several reports of the reporting throughout the week when they kind of took, I don't know, to re-emphasize or kind of build on what you were just talking about when they interviewed some of these Republican legislators and who they admitted, basically saying, well, Fox News has never run this stuff, right? That's kind of how they were framing it. Because you get the sense, right, that there are a lot of those legislators, right, who have bought completely into like the Fox News narrative, right? And that's literally, it's all they watch. And so it creates that kind of that sensation. Now, good, that's on them. That's like whatever. I'm not trying to excuse them for all, but that tells you about like what a lot of people are seeing and what they're not seeing. And the fact that they said that was the first time they saw the footage was there. And then there was people like Mitt Romney. Again, not a Romney fan at all, right? I'm not like whatever.
The video of Romney coming within seconds.
He was shook. I think he was. I mean, he and several other people were shook seeing that stuff. And I think that that was, I think, important. And Rachel Maddow made a really good point about this. About look, we're not going to get the conviction. I think, right? I have so little faith in the Republican Party to actually do the right thing here. That yes, there'll be more people to come over. But she made the point is like now it's undeniable for the historical record about what happened here, right? The way that the narrative was put together, now we can see. And it's not just going to be like we're gonna like carry off into this like, well, there's two different sides to this. Some people feel like this, but we think they're overreacting. Other people don't think it was like this. Now you see that who was under threat.
And the timeline of the video with the diagram of the people breaking in, the Senate,
right?
Like, and then like running the tweets, like as like the the argument, like they put together.
They built the chronology.
Yeah, they let the timeline speak for itself.
Yes.
And sometimes the timeline is the most damning evidence.
Yep, exactly.
Like, I mean, like, what else is there to say? Like, Trump tweeted this at this moment, and Mike Pence was still in the Senate, and people were yelling "Hang Mike Pence" because of the Trump tweets.
Right.
Like, like it. Yeah, I mean, it's just like it was an extremely compelling case. Like, you are going to have serious moral problems if you continue to vote for Republicans after this. That's just it. Like, you are completely divorced from reality.
Yeah.
At this point.
But at least we could say good on the House managers for this era. And one thing I do want to say, just in terms of how we think about this, think about the narrative about what happened and what they're saying this week. This is the one thing where these kind of mainstream centrist Democrats were frustrating me the most this week, is that I understand when we're talking about the case being made in the floor of the Senate, right, trying to kind of persuade legislators, senators to convict Trump, right? I understand why you would emphasize the danger that Mike Pence was in the entire time, right? Because in that venue, in the Senate, right, you are targeting those Republican senators. Those are the primary people that you need to persuade, right? So I understand why you make that argument there. What I think is I find a bit frustrating and seriously problematic is when you have some of these centrist Democrats who are going to the media and replaying that narrative about how Mike Pence was at the most danger from anyone else.
No, everyone was.
Well, but the people who were, this is why I think this is really important, is that the Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, right, Nancy Pelosi, young women progressives were the most targeted. They were the ones that were the most at risk that day, right? I have no doubt that they would have come to serious harm if anybody got their hands on them. If they got their hands on Mike Pence, they might have roughed him up a bit, but I doubt that it would have been. I don't even know that. No, I'm not even going to say that.
I think they would have killed him.
Yeah. My point. I was going to say. My point is this: to kind of to focus solely on the white Republican vice president as the one.
The women of color within that caucus. I watched.
Exactly.
I don't have cable, so I was watching everything through YouTube yesterday.
Yep.
I was watching the Washington Post stream on my TV through my YouTube app, and they did a really good job interviewing congresswomen of color.
Yes.
And getting their reactions from that, and pretty much saying no. Everyone's saying take off your jackets, take off your congressional pins and stuff like that, and they're just like, no, we have to keep these on. They're going to come after us if we're not, and someone's like, this woman was just saying well, why don't you just find a Trump scarf and wear that and go into the crowd and escape? And they're like, no. And seeing the photos of the Pelosi staffers who barricaded themselves just watching that, seeing the video of Schumer, and Romney.
Yep.
Romney was walking right into it, and it was Officer Goodman who saved his life. And Romney didn't even realize that until he saw the video on the floor.
Yep.
They came within seconds of getting killed.
Well, and if you look at that timeline when you're talking about
Romney would have been a target regardless.
Oh, totally. Are you kidding me? He's the one. He's the one. You voted for Biden. Impeachment. You voted for exactly.
You supported Biden. You supported Clinton back in 2016.
He totally would have been a target. And when you saw that video about them coming for Mike Pence, when they ushered Mike Pence down those stairs, and you look at the where they recreated the timeline about where the mob was at the same time where Pence was. They were literally around the corner. That was seconds. If they had turned that corner a few seconds earlier, they would have seen where they would have taken Mike Pence and they would have gone after him. Little stuff like that. That's the kind of, I could only hope that that's going to shake some of those folks to the core. Like I said, I don't have a whole lot of hope in it. But I do think, we're probably going to get those 10 Republicans, maybe. That's optimistic, I think, that will vote for conviction. But I do not. But that's not going to reach the 60 vote threshold to convict. So, but still,
and I mean, also, I think what's Trump. There's an investigation now opening up the Trump's phone call in Georgia.
Yep.
I
did you see that woman last night? She was on Maddow last night. She's the Attorney General of Georgia.
I didn't see that.
Whew, she's a badass. She's awesome. She's awesome.
And also, I mean, with this, it's I don't know how Trump escapes legal prosecution after this. We're seeing more of the stories. We didn't put this in the show notes, but more of the Proud Boy members are getting arrested.
Yep.
And Roger Stone is probably going to get arrested again. Michael Flynn is going to get arrested again. I wouldn't be surprised if Manafort goes back to jail. These people are going to get I remember when Trump gave out all these pardons to the worst offenders before back in December. It was like Batman, the jailbreak from Akron Asylum. That's what it felt like. You know what I mean? And that's exactly what it was. It was the jailbreak from Akron Asylum. The fucking worst criminals, offenders and all this escaped, got out, pardoned. And what they do, they stage a coup fucking 3 weeks later, a violent insurrection. And the people around Stone are getting arrested. I think Stone's going back to jail. I think Stone dies in prison after this. I don't know how you do not prosecute these people as a Justice Department. This isn't this isn't after George W. Bush when Pelosi and others said we got to look forward and heal the nation. No, we have to fucking prosecute these people now. After what we just watched on this week with this trial,
right?
There has to be legal ramifications. Well, there has to be people have to go to jail over this.
I agree, and this is a couple weeks back for Out the Coop Live, I kind of walked through this article that I had written several years ago. I mean, this is after this is before Trump, right? When originally it got published, right when Trump was basically going to take office, and it was this idea that we want to get back to some ground of civility, right? And I understand that emphasis to get there, but you can only do that when you've got different sides have agreed to the rules of the game, right? That you are going to, you're not going to all agree. You're going to argue, but it's going to be limited to debate, argumentation, and persuasion within those realms, not physical violence. Once you have a faction that has decided that a minority faction that has decided that it is going to take up arms and going to utilize violence, right, as its tool of persuasion, that has to be put down. Right? That's the only way, especially if you're talking about a faction that is about returning us, as Rick Smith always says, getting rid of the 20th century, right? Returning us back to these days.
All these rallies, and Mastriano is one of the worst fucking abusers of this, in state. Mastriano has been for months have been telling people to grab their guns and take up arms, and saying things let's roll. We're on flight 93. Let's roll and do this.
I swear to God, it's just a bad freaking movie. It really. Or
comparing everything to Gettysburg and or the Revolutionary War. He's telling people to fucking grab their guns and start shooting liberals. And he's been doing that for months. I've been going to these rallies, and pretty much every time, he's using this inflammatory rhetoric of the revolution, and we have to protect our. This is the second. He believes that this is the second Civil War, and using that rhetoric and saying we're going to defend this, and using such coded rhetoric, we're seeing this here. This is more than what Metcalf has done over the past few years. This guy is openly calling for people to grab their guns and start shooting.
Well, and this is the thing, and you've I mean, oh my God, I mean, here we go again, right? I mean, you've been saying this for
months,
a long time, right? This is not something that comes as a surprise to you or anybody who's been listening to the show. But, the difference between someone like Metcalf, right, and Mastriano is kind of like he's
like they're both true believers.
Yes,
like
he's got more skills, right? I mean, Mastriano has more skills, right? And he's not like I think Metcalf has trouble not being a nut job, right? Even putting on a performance of it, right? I mean, he's just like 100%,
Daryl Metcalf.
But Mastriano is he's the kind of person
he has
that
the charisma.
He has the charisma, and he's got this kind of just drive and discipline to him that someone like Metcalf does not.
Yeah.
And we've talked about what do we do? And this is why we need to put this down, right? We need to see people go to jail. We need to see people lose their positions in the Senate and in the House, because there is no future of democracy, right? Future of the republic, if violence is going to be the go-to tool of persuasion for this faction of the Republican Party, and the rest of the Republican Party basically going along and doing nothing, right? Being basically collaborators in that project. I mean, this is not good deal. Let me make one bit of a correction. It's not the Georgia Attorney General. It is the Fulton County, Georgia District Attorney. Right. She's the one who's basically launching the investigation, moving forward with it. And because of what was going on in Fulton County and attempts to kind of suppress the vote and attempts to, the Trump call to the Georgia Secretary of State to try to kind of get him to turn back the election. She's the one to take a look. Her name is Fani Willis, Fani Willis, and she is a badass. Definitely look her up and check her out. Sorry, just want to make that correction.
No, go ahead. But I mean, people have to go to jail over this. Trump has to go to jail. I don't think he escapes prosecution. I don't know how he does after this. I don't know how if you're Biden, you allow your Justice Department not to do this. Now, obviously, Biden's saying he wants the Justice Department to act independently. But if you're Merrick Garland, how do you do this? Like, how do you like you know what I mean?
Well,
how do you
here's
just
the interesting
ignore
thing,
this?
though.
There's no moving on from this until there are prosecutions and people are in jail.
Right. And I think that this is why I'm so interested in what's going on in that Fulton County, Georgia, is because I think there's the one question of what happens, what does the federal government do on this, right? And I think, and that's for exactly as you're pointing to, it's a great question. What does Merrick Garland do here? I think what at the very least, I think there needs to be kind of like investigations and then setting up kind of an orderly process of prosecution, right? To go down the list, right? If you've ever seen how these kind of cases develop, if you actually want to get people, right? Remember, let's go back to the very beginning of the Trump administration or Trump organization, right? This is a mob-based organization, right? And how do you get the mob, right? You start from below and you work your way up.
And I think we're seeing that now with the charges that are happening, especially conspiracy charges. It's actually pretty interesting because there's a Proud Boy member in Philadelphia who hasn't been arrested yet, but he was in D.C., right? And he's the leader of the Philadelphia Proud Boys. His name is Zach Rell, R-E-H-L. If you watch the Wall Street Journal videos or photos, he is front and center. And pretty much like everyone in those photos and videos, everyone around Rell, right, in the front lines, have gotten arrested over the past couple weeks. So is this guy a snitch? Is he snitching? Because he comes from a police family in Philadelphia, from Northeast Philly. So he was there. You got to think someone's snitching on these people because there are Proud Boys who haven't been identified. The Gavin McInnes lookalike got nailed for conspiracy charges. We're now seeing the conspiracy charges coming out, which are 20 years in prison.
Yep.
So who's snitching?
Yep.
You know what I mean?
You're going to the jail.
And you got to wonder, are these people going to start snitching on Roger Stone?
Well, I think you're right. I think you're right to kind of to suggest, and what you're suggesting is that there are people already doing it, and I do think that's true.
Yeah, I mean, I'm using him as an example. He hasn't been arrested yet.
Yep.
I mean, he's one of the highest profile people who has not been arrested yet. So it like there are people within the area starting to make those like assumptions that like maybe he's an informant at this point. Like,
Yeah.
you know, Enrique Tarrio, Proud Boy. We didn't talk about this on the podcast that much, but Enrique Tarrio was a snitch, and he wasn't just a snitch. He was snitching on drug dealers, human traffickers, and people in Miami. Like, it's one thing to like snitch on a grow house in the middle of bumfuck Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
If you're snitching on cartels in Miami,
It's not going to make you a target or anything.
yeah, like I mean, like once that comes out, this guy's like one of the most prolific informants, as like the prosecutors called it. Like with this, like going after, you got to think he's singing like a bird.
Well, look,
like a bird.
I think that's one of the reasons why the prosecutors commented on it, right? I mean, one of the reasons why they didn't try to squash the fact that he had been a snitch. You let some of that leak out in the press. Right, people recording, and you don't deny it. You kind of, he's cooperated with police in the past. That gets published out there, and now he's got to be running scared. Right? Yeah. I mean, that's how this stuff works. I mean, I'm sorry.
I mean, and these people aren't mob people where there's loyalty to a single godfather. Like this isn't like you know what I mean. Like this is their. I think.
They're mini mob people. They think that they've got a.
But there's no blood loyalty.
But that's
there.
what I mean. They've got they got a big idea about thinking that there's this thing, but they do not exist in that kind of organization, like at all. Yeah,
like this isn't like the mafia in South Philly where everyone stays quiet. No, these people are all singing like birds.
Yep.
Like like it's just like these people are all chirping. I wouldn't be surprised. And the Proud Boys were the first people in, and the Oath Keepers were.
Yep.
So, and you saw like the FBI lawyer that got arrested this week, the former.
Yes. Like, it's like, you got to be kidding me.
Yeah, I mean, like.
But I mean, we should. Yeah, I mean, I shouldn't say it like that because it's not the kind of thing that actually surprises me. I mean, we've been talking about this for a while.
I mean, like you look at it like one of the Kevin Boyle's. His grandfather fought in the original Irish Republican Army. So we've had some really good conversations about the IRA and stuff like that. And, he said, this is just like he said something really interesting. He's like, this, what we're going to find out here is like with the Protestants in Northern Ireland and how they were all cops, pretty much. And the cops were, the British were enabling the IRA, the Ulster, the
Unionists. Yep.
Yeah, the Unionists were enabled because like they were all cops.
Yep.
Or they were part of the military or some. And I think this is where we're going to see it. Like,
yeah, of course we are. We're already seeing it. I mean, you're looking at they're establishing new rules for like screening recruits to the military right now, and they're doing this also at police departments across the country, right? In the wake of all this. Now, some of this had already been going on, right? In those areas that these police departments in some parts of the country that already kind of recognize a problem, but it was not getting any kind of like systematic attention. And now, the fact that you had to screen National Guard members before they could come and protect the president during the inauguration because they recognized that there was an internal problem with white supremacists.
We're seeing that with the Secret Service before Trump got elected. Before Biden got inaugurated, there was a couple of Secret Service members who had white nationalist ties that were involved in recruiting members coming in. Like, yeah, these people have to be purged out of government, purged out of these institutions.
Absolutely.
Like, it is what it is. Like, like you can have your conservative Republican beliefs, but being a white nationalist or a neo-Nazi ain't gonna fucking cut it anymore.
Right. Look, if you've got a cancer, it doesn't go away by ignoring it. You got to cut it out. And this is a cancer. You got to cut it out. You've got to do the work of cutting it out. So, well, I mean, I think there's going to be implications of what obviously of the insurrection and of these impeachment hearings for weeks to come. I am glad to hear that. Well, let me put it this way: I think that what Biden has been doing is, I think, pretty smart about just saying, "Okay, I'm going to stay out of this." Right? Even when asked to comment on it, he basically says, the senators are doing a very important job in this stuff. He doesn't try to want to weigh in. Has been really focused on making sure they get appointments through. They've worked out a schedule so that, yes, they could have impeachment and try to get some of the cabinet members approved. And it looks like everything that we had hoped for about a move to actually utilize reconciliation is not just something that is pie in the sky at this point. It looks like there's as close to a broad consensus among Democratic Party to move ahead and using
March 14th is the deadline. They're gonna have it done by.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and this is like, and that's when, again, it'd be great if they get it done beforehand, because that's when all, unemployment insurance stuff runs out, a whole bunch of other things runs out.
Well, like Pelosi was saying that like the deadline for all that stuff to run out is March 14th, and they think that they'll have it done before that, which is great. Like it's been pleasantly surprising. I'm pleasantly like surprised with how the Democrats are handling this and getting this done. Right. Like, it seems like, Manchin was just doing things as transactional standpoints, and Bernie and others made really good points this past week or two, saying like, you're going to tell me like, we're going to make the cutoff at $50,000 when 40 million people, that's an extra 40 million people not getting checks that got checks under Trump. Are you fucking serious?
Yeah.
Like,
and he's basically like basically baiting them to say, okay, go ahead, make the argument in defense of that position. Right. I mean, I'm telling you, having Bernie ahead of the budget committee is freaking amazing.
Yeah. Because
number one, guess what? He is now a go-to person for the media.
And you're arguing over a couple $100 million in a $1.9 trillion.
Yep, exactly. I mean, that's been that, and for Bernie to do that thing, like last week, we talked a little bit about this last week, where he was gonna, someone was proposing an amendment that the raise of the minimum wage shouldn't happen during the pandemic, and Sanders knows the rules better than the freaking little whatever
Johnny Ernst.
Right. Yes, exactly. That it's putting if she takes her like plastic bread bags off her feet to kind of walk into the Senate in order to kind of try to kind of take on Bernie Sanders. And Bernie Sanders is like, okay, this is actually a meaningless argument because the way that she phrased it. So I'm gonna take that over 100%.
We're gonna vote for it. Yes.
Yes, I'll support that because my bill's not gonna go into effect. It's gonna tear on it's like squash. You want to take this on? You want to take this on?
Yeah, I mean, but it's
great.
Yeah, and it seems it looks like Democrats have learned from their mistakes in 2019. There's a really good article out there. Basically, someone said that Melissa Byrne, who is the Philadelphia area native, I think South Jersey or Philly, she has more sway within the Biden administration as an activist on the outside than Larry Summers does. Like, especially when it comes to canceling student debt and stuff like that. Basically, people are giving Summers the middle finger, saying "fuck you, you're not relevant." With these arguments saying you're going too big with the relief package. Like, no, we're getting this done and we're getting it done now.
Well, and this is what I just hope. This is where I think, I might have mentioned this before too as well, but I think that I'm only hoping that Biden's ego is going to pick up on this and he'll get behind it enough, because I do think he cares enough about his place in history and stuff like this, where he can realize that he has the opportunity.
This is his FDR moment.
Yeah, this is the FDR moment. Absolutely. And we'll see. And there's enough people in the Democratic Party are pushing. And frankly, the centrist Democrats got nothing, right? And the Republican Party, I mean, their whole, their policy of tax cuts and that's going nowhere.
And you're going to work with these people after they've refused to convict Trump?
Right, exactly, right? So just be like, boom, you're not going to do this? See you later.
You want unity? 80% of the country supports this $1.9 trillion package. Yeah, there's your fucking unity.
Exactly. Yeah. Did you see my tweet? That's I was like, the country is very the country is very divided. Yeah, 80% of people are behind it. Yeah, right.
Like,
oh, great.
No, they have the upper hand in this. Like, and like Manchin and others are just trying to negotiate with themselves and like, no, that's it. We're not fucking playing this game.
Well, and you see that by having the House Democrats and the Congressional Progressive Caucus pushing to get the $15 minimum wage in was a huge move here, right? And like and for a change, you have Pramila Jayapal, right, pushing hard, right? I mean, she was in there. I mean, the interviews I heard with her, like the reporting on it, she was in there pushing to get this included, right? There was reluctance in some folks in the Biden administration, but she pushed, right? The Progressive Caucus were unified. You got Bernie Sanders' voice on this, and here we go, right? So for all these kind of like, the technocrats in the Democratic Party, who was like, well, I don't know if we can do this because technically this is outside of like they just were like, whatever, get out of the way. We're going to go do it. Make the other side make the argument. Instead of arguing with yourselves and like, you know, about what you think potentially in some abstract world is going to be the case, make it so, and make the other side do some work for a change.
Yeah.
Right. And then make your argument the best that you can about why they should be in there. And the more, and I think, I can't remember what it was, but the CBO just basically made this ruling about some of the initial aspects of the budget. Well, did you see this? Where it basically said some of the moves, particularly around the $15 minimum wage, right, would contribute to the deficit. Right, they made this kind, and it looks like on the surface of things, oh no, that's a problem. But no, this is actually the best thing that could have happened, barring them saying yes, go ahead. Right, is because they said is that it impacts the budget. The CBO has now made a ruling that it impacts the budget, therefore bolstering the arguments that raising the minimum wage to $15 an hour could be included in reconciliation. That's freaking huge.
Yeah.
So. Good deal. Lots of good stuff going on. And I know this is, I got to say, I know this is a little bit uncharacteristic for those folks listening to this podcast to see us kind of like bringing the good news, right? And being a little bit happy. I feel a little bit out of my, like, I don't feel right about saying this.
This wasn't where we were like in 2016 in the lead up to the election.
No,
like,
not at all. Not at all. This was, and you know, so whatever. And there's plenty of time for this to go south, so let's not get too far out in front.
But it looks like right now they're not going to fuck this up.
Fingers crossed. Keep the pressure on. Make sure that you're going to call your senator. Make sure that you're going to call your representatives. Make sure that you're going to support, like, the, you know, I mean, everything about this budget.
And
bill
also, I
forward.
feel like what's amazing. I was watching. I've been listening to a lot of Pod Save America on this. And one of the things they made a really good point a few weeks ago, just like, fuck political capital. Like, if there's one thing that like Trump has taught us over the past 4 years, like, political capital is not a finite resource, as like Democrats and Republicans made it out to be before Trump. They're like, fuck that. Trump used so much political capital where he just, you know, he manipulated the media cycle so much where like we don't care about political capital. We're not like, who cares about this argument? Like, we're expending political capital here, so we can't do X, Y, or Z because we used it here. No, fuck that. We're going to go ahead and do it anyway.
But I would also say that, like, look, they've been, for the longest time, this whole idea about political capital on the Democratic side, like, they think it's this kind of like finite resource. Right? That's something that's kind of like, there's this thing called political capital, and then you have to be very careful with it and treat it gingerly and use it only in pieces when it comes. No. Political capital comes from the labor that you do to create it. Just like in capitalism, everybody, right? Is like, where does capital come from? It doesn't come from magic unicorns and from the heaven. It comes from the creation of people who are actually producing goods and services in the world. It's the same thing with political capital. How do you gain political capital? You do things for people that build trust and response. You're not building political capital with Republicans in the House and Senate. You're building capital with the American people. And if you go and you make sure that, and this is why the fact that they're insisting on the $1,400 checks instead of $2,000 checks is just a piece of that. If you go and you actually deliver real tangible goods to people, guess what's going to happen? You're going to build more political capital. And you find out that it's not
they're going to vote for you.
Right. That you don't just have like a little pile of coal in the corner that by which you have to burn slowly to keep warm. You keep your political capital warm. No, you've got freaking wind turbines and solar panels. Right. And guess what? When the sun's on, like when you're doing good things, right, it produces more energy. That's how this shit works. That's politics. And so that's what's encouraging, right? I mean, and so again, baby steps, I know, but God, I mean, the fact that this is what I find, what I get myself frustrating out more than anything else is I get frustrated by saying, I'm so excited about this when I realize, like, you know, Jesus Christ, this is like baseline stuff, but yeah, good stuff. So last thing, once again, we're gonna
Amazon.
Follow what's going on Amazon. Pretty awesome that you've actually got these, the ballots are out. You're talking about, you know, nearly 6,000 workers, 5,800 workers, at the plant down in Bessemer, Alabama. They are voting or in process of voting. The mail-in ballots are coming in, despite the fact that Amazon kind of like went to the kind of Koch brothers funded institutions and like anti-union hit guy in order to try to undermine kind of workers this week. Nope. They won one victory where the Amazon was trying to make sure that they had in-person voting so they could continue to intimidate people. Amazon workers put out some awesome videos this week circulating on social media about some of the intimidation tactics that Amazon had been using. And yet they're kind of standing kind of out in the sun, proudly saying, nope, we're not going to do this, right? We're not going to succumb to this. So that vote's going to happen. We shall see. But it's a pretty amazing story. It will be the first Amazon facility in the country that will be a union and in the Deep South. If they do indeed vote to go for union. And kudos to the folks for the RWDSU, the union down there. Because they actually unionized poultry workers in Alabama and made some significant victories, right, about, safety protections and wages and benefits, that these other workers at Amazon said, hey, look, they're working in the poultry plant. That union came in and they got some real safety protections. They got some real victories. And we see ourselves in them, so we're going to reach out to that union, right? Once again, political capital and power is something that you build, right? It's not something that is just kind of like out there in the communication sphere. So kudos to them. We'll keep an eyes on that. But that's pretty encouraging, Sean. I don't know. That's a pretty encouraging development. We'll see if they get it.
Yep.
Cool. All right. Anything else you got going on in nationwide stuff before we head into a little more local things?
No, nothing too much.
All right, fantastic. Well, this is Kevin Mahoney, editor and founder of Raging Chicken. I want to remind you that you can become a patron of this show, help do what we do by going to patreon.com/rcpress. You can become a patron for as little as $5 a month. You can also give us a one-time contribution anytime that you'd like by just going over to paypal.me/rcpress, anywhere $2, $5, $50, $100. You can drop that in our tip jar and say, yes, we want to kind of help support progressive media. We've got some great shows that are going to be coming up for you in the coming weeks and months. I'm looking very much forward to that. So get on over there and help support the show. Patreon.com/rcpress. That's how we do what we do. We'll be right back after this quick break.
All right, I'm back. Too much coffee this morning.
Welcome back once again to Raging Chicken's Out the Coop podcast. I'm here once again with unemployed Trump staffer Sean Kitchen. And boy, the one thing, you know, I can't think of a better moment, right, to kind of live in Pennsylvania and call yourself a Pennsylvanian. Yes, indeed. Would you say, Sean, aren't you feeling a little bit PA proud right about now?
Oh, yes, I am. So I am talking to, I just tweeted at Shanna. She tweeted out that, you know, like, this is one of the most nauseating things I'm watching, talking about the thing, the fucking impeachment trial. It's oh, so you're not watching the podcast, I see.
Yeah, I think the impeachment trial going on, we lost a bunch of our live audience that are usually here on this day because that's going on, but that's yeah, understandable, certainly. But
so
anyways, yeah, go ahead.
So
PA
I was,
proud, man.
you know, this week the House GOP spokesperson Jason Gottsman, who he's a total just asshole who has failed upwards at everything he's done over the past several years. You know, he also didn't like me when he was working in the newsroom or outside the newsroom as a PLS reporter, and actively told people to stay away from me in the Capitol because I don't do things the correct way. This guy's now the spokesperson for the House GOP, said anything that happened in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania over the past several months and trying to equate it with what happened to in DC is a false equivalency. You know, talking about like the radicalization the Republicans, you know, did with everyone. You're seeing everyone who got arrested in Pennsylvania pretty much got radicalized and attended their reopen rallies, their COVID misinformation, the election lies and stuff like that. Pennsylvania now ranks number 2 with the number of people who've been arrested at the insurrection.
There you go. Good old
PA proud.
Who's number 1? You know who's number 1?
I don't know who number 1 is, but who cares?
No, I know. If I had to guess, I'd say it's got to be like maybe Texas or I don't know. But we're number 2.
Virginia, probably. I don't know. Like
West Virginia. Well, no, West.
I mean, how close like are people like? But I mean, it goes to show you the fucking infrastructure. The Republican Party ginned up this rally so much. It wasn't just like it was like. I try to explain this. Like, I've been talking to some journalists about this over the past several months, or the past several weeks, because, like, you know, a lot of the people are focusing on Pennsylvania right now. All the people got arrested, and like one of the contacts I made back in, you know, at the Stop the Steal rallies and the Count Every Vote rallies that were going on, you know, like Chris Mathias from he covers like white nationalism and all. Like we were talking about a month ago, and I was just like every single Republican county party and local committee sent buses, like
right.
with plural, like every county committee. Like I'm waiting for these campaign finance reports to see how much they fucking spent on the buses, because like every like committee, every like county committee, like every like local committee were pimping this fucking rally up until January the 6th. You know, like, you know, Mike Lindell from the fucking My Pillow guy was up here. Like, no, I mean, like, this whole, like, it was just been a fucking circus the past several months. But, like, I'm not surprised by this. Like, everyone had buses lined up, waiting lists for buses. There were, like, yeah, I just, like, it's like, I think Chris Dush sent fucking people down with his campaign expenses. Like, yeah, it's just been insane.
That's nuts. This is a like a little bit of a side point. But did you hear? Speaking of like the My Pillow dude, have you hear what David Hogue and
yeah, I did.
His brother are doing? They launched a pillow company, Good Pillow. I love this as like a great example of like how to do troll right. Right? It's like actually start a real company to sell pillows. And just so you know, if you can check it out, if you follow him on Twitter, it's at Good Pillow Co. That's at Good Pillow Co. Check it out. I actually got on the pre-order list, right? Go and buy Good Pillow. But it's pretty awesome, right? As a direct response to the My Pillow fascist dude. So that's pretty awesome.
So Oh, whatchamacallit. So, so locally here in Central PA, in Scott Perry's district, did you look at this billboard yet?
I have not. Let me pull it up right now.
Okay, yeah, let's just like a live reaction to it because I have it now up on my screen.
Let's see.
Capital Region stands up and PA stands up.
Are you kidding me?
Put up this billboard, yes.
This is awesome.
Yes. So they put up this billboard with Scott Perry's face over it, all over it. It's Scott Perry, and then like up on the right hand corner with the background, with the Capitol in the background, like offset, like on a diagonal, and like the people behind Scott Perry are the guy who stole Nancy Pelosi's podium, waving to the camera.
Holy cow!
The Camp Auschwitz guy on his cell phone, the QAnon shaman with his American flag, and then the other guy who got arrested for breaking into Pelosi's office. These billboards are going up all over Pennsylvania. Yeah, like all over Central PA, outside of his offices and stuff like that, on 83. Yeah, this is like the work that we were on our Commonwealth, we were on our communications call this morning, and JJ's group helped put this together. They're like, we love billboards. The one woman who says like, I love billboards, they're like, we love billboards as well. like
we kind of got a thing for billboards.
Yes, I'm sure. Like so.
Well, everybody definitely check that out. In the
it's an amazing photo.
It's an amazing photo. I just want to see if I can do something real quick, just for folks who are watching us on YouTube. Let me see if I can.
Like I said, is your background image?
Well, maybe. Yeah. Let me see if I can do it. Well, I'll get back to it. If I can make it happen during the broadcast, I'll let you know that I'll put it up. But that's pretty awesome.
Yeah. I mean, but also like it just shows you the accountability work that grassroots activists have been doing in Central PA. I think like over $100,000 worth of donors have dropped out of supporting Perry financially. And, this comes as Scott Perry will most likely be running for fucking Senate next year. Like I can't wait for the primaries. I know we're like 15 months away from the 2022 primaries, but like I really cannot wait for the primary. We have everything with Fetterman. We'll talk about that in a few minutes. But like the people lining up to run for the U.S. on the Republican side for the Senate and the Republican caucus or the governor race is just like batshit fucking crazy. Yeah, like Guy Restenschaler is thinking about running. He called his insurrection vote an ideological. It was just a. He called his vote not ideological. It was some fucking stupid word. But pretty much like, he's going to be running. Sean Parnell, who lost to Connor Lamb, is going to be running. Like the worst of the worst people are lining up to run for the Senate right now, and it's going to be a bloodbath on the Republican side.
So, and if I'm right, if I remember this right, so we're going to know pretty much is run by what, March 9th or something like this is the deadline, or
I don't know if it's March 9th.
It's coming up. I had this flagged on Instagram. Let me see if I still have it up here because it's so we're gonna know like literally in the pretty quickly to find out who's gonna run up, and it is gonna be. I mean, you previewed this back in the fall. You said this is gonna be pretty much a kind of rip roaring kind of thing. Oh, I don't have it up anymore.
I mean, like Mastriano is gonna be running for governor. Dan Muser is running for governor. Mike Regan's running for lieutenant governor. I think Greg Rotham's gonna be running for governor. So the people running for governor is just like lining up to be a shit show. Like the Senate race is also going to be just like batshit insane. Mike Bardos, who ran in 2018, is like running, or who was Scott Wagner's running mate, I think is going to be trying to run for governor. So like you got these people who are like the country club business Republicans that are stepping in. McSwain is going to be running for Senate. Like it's just going to be like fucking nuts to watch. Can't wait for this.
Well, all right. So everybody who's watching on YouTube right now, I got the image up, so you might have seen it flash on the screen already. But just for everybody out there, here you go, and we'll kind of talk you through it. So it's got a full screen image of it now. You can see this is taken from CBS. Right,
21.
CBS 21. And it's cut off at the edges, but you get the perspective. I mean, this is freaking brilliant. We deserve better. PerryResign.com. And you have him with the Capitol in the background and all the cast of characters that we've come to know from the insurrection. Pretty awesome stuff. Pretty awesome stuff, I got to say.
Yeah.
Kudos. Capital Region stand up and PA stand up. That's awesome.
Yeah. So I love these. Yeah, it's a great thing. And then also speaking about the U.S. Senate, Lieutenant Governor Fetterman announced his campaign this week,
and within hours,
and the elbows came flying.
Yeah. So walk through a little bit about what this was about. Unless you want me to do it, I could do it too as well.
Fetterman released his campaign video, officially announced he was running this week. A lot of people were coming in, were getting their T-shirts in last week. He released a really good ad.
It was excellent.
Campaign.
His ad was phenomenal, I got to say.
Yeah,
it was great.
However, his response afterwards was not that great. Pretty much, video resurfaced from a news story 8 years ago of him holding up a jogger, admitting that he held up a jogger with a shotgun in Braddock. And, the news story is out there. It's on YouTube. Once this resurfaced, I actually went back and watched it.
Yeah.
And
it's not good.
No, it's not. The news story is not good at all. It's vigilantism. Pretty much like there was a jogger, a black man jogging through the neighborhood.
He's going through the neighborhood. Fetterman claims that he hears like automatic weapons fire, right? So he's driving around in his pickup truck, or he leaves it, and his son's
he's walking with his son. Yeah,
right. So he's like, here's what he says is automatic weapons fire, right? So, and he sees, right, a person running down the street. Right. And this is this kind of African-American jogger down the street. And so his response is to reach into his truck, and grab his shotgun. Right. And then go after this guy and hold him at gunpoint until the police arrive. Right. And the
jogger was not pleased, obviously.
No.
And from the jogger standpoint, after it was all said and done, even parties knew that this wasn't what it thought to be.
It wasn't automatic gunfire. Somebody was shooting off bottle rockets in a field that was nearby.
Yeah. So this resurfaced. The news story itself is not good. It wasn't good a few years ago when it became an issue in the primary. And Fetterman's response to it was not good. Let's just put that out there. He immediately blamed this on Republicans from Ivory-gated communities, releasing this video. When it really, I think it originated with the K-Hive stands on Twitter. Mm-hmm. This happened. K-Hive people jumped on it immediately. Fetterman went dark, but he released a statement to the New York Times and released his campaign video about him fighting gun violence, which completely neglects to mention an apology. It glosses over the point. Went quiet for a couple of days. Well, he actually spoke to a local news reporter in Harrisburg on Fox 43, Matt Mizell, who was lobbing him softball questions. That's who Matt is. Matt's a really good journalist. Matt has stuck up for me a few times in the past when I've been out to different Trump events in the area and people questioning if I'm a media person or not. And Matt has always stuck up and supported me. Mm-hmm. So, he's pretty much just letting Fetterman speak, and again, not really great answers. Fetterman goes dark, released this Medium post where he talks about his issues with gun violence and how this incident happened right after Sandy Hook. And it wasn't even a non-apology apology. It was more just a justification of what he did and why he did it, without taking into account the person's trauma with this. And he still held up a person at gunpoint. did he point the gun at the guy's chest? The person, the
That's
jogger claimed,
disputed. Right.
that's disputed. The jogger claimed he did. Fetterman say he didn't. But the thing is, it's still vigilantism, and like this is pretty much just one of those issues where you should just own up and apologize.
That's what I don't understand about this. This is my bigger problem with this issue, right? Is that
Just say I fucked up. I'm sorry.
totally.
Like, and that's it.
Totally. Like, you gotta look at it like this too as well. Like if we're doing just politically speaking, right? Just in terms of like, the politics thing about running a campaign and things like this, right? The idea that you don't just kind of own up with it and just say, look, this was what's going on in my head. And this is, there's no way I should have reacted in that way. Right. And the fact that he's not issued kind of like apology, right? And that he can't come now and just say like things
he
like,
didn't issue an apology in 2018 or 2017 when this came up then as an issue.
well, and he could apologize again, right? Saying like, and I reached out to this guy and I apologized for my behavior, try to explain what's going on. This is not how we were supposed to respond. And you want to take him out gun violence. It's like, this is why we need to address this systemically, right? Like the kind, and like if he even owned up
And
to
what
the
he
whole
did
kind
was
of,
gun violence.
well, yeah, and owned up to the whole kind of like white vigilantism kind of part of it. He doesn't have to call it that if he was want politically, but that's essentially what the deal is. Like you're taking like like matters into your own hands, and like this is not Cory Bush. I mean, not Cory Bush. This is not what's his name? Why can't I think of his name?
Ahmaud Arbery.
No, Cory. The ran for president. Cory. Why can't I think?
Cory
of his name?
Booker.
Cory Booker. This is not Cory Booker running into a burning building and saving somebody inside, right? That's taking matters in your own hand, a responsible way to kind of help save someone. This is, comes into a history of white, of kind of, white vigilantism. And now, do I think he's a white vigilante? No, right? But this is not a good look as a beginning, especially given the fact that he'd been working to build he's got like a national reputation now. I mean, like I've told you this before. I've got a friend of mine out in Las Vegas who's like on the Fetterman train already, right? Very excited about about Fetterman and kind of like his ethos and all that stuff. This is going to be an issue, and I think that as it should be, right? And so really, this is going to be on him and on his campaign to kind of address this kind of more forthrightly and not try to kind of skirt around the issues. Just in my humble opinion, but
yeah, no, and I mean, like people weren't impressed by the statement he issued yesterday, pretty much like bringing up the gun violence narrative and how it was happening after Sandy Hook, but like still just like admit you were wrong and you were sorry. Like,
yeah, that should not be hard to do.
Yeah. So, I mean, like that's pretty much it. We'll see in the coming weeks who else announces for their run for Senate.
Yeah. Now, what I hope now, I'm just going to put this out there now is what my hope is when we see who else is going to run for Senate, as we kind of look forward to debates around the primaries and all that kind of stuff. That that this is not going to be kind of like the dominant issue. That people are not going to play like the optics question. That yes, this obviously has to be addressed. Is going to be part of the debates coming up. But we on the left, from my point of view, we need to also be pushing candidates, whoever they are, come hard on kind of what their kind of like economic and budgetary priorities are going to be.
Like supporting the environment.
100%. Right. I mean, I think that has to be where we approach this stuff as a move, in addition to this issue. Right. But, my concern.
And there's also going to be other issues. I mean, there are other issues out there that Fetterman is not strong on.
Like fracking, for example.
Fracking, right? Yes. The whole entire issues with the Clairton Coke Works that happened a couple years ago with the steelworker, the United States Steel Plant, spewing pollution into the Mon Valley because one of their scrubbers or one of their machinery was malfunctioning, and like you have lines were drawn in the sand. Like people really to come out against. People shutting down the plant. The plant would have shut down. It would have taken months to get it back up and running. And they decided this whole entire like vote your jobs ethos, which like, they put their jobs. There was such a really bad argument with this, like vote your jobs, which means vote your paycheck and fuck what happens to everyone else.
Right.
And you're pitting two sides of the progressive movement within the labor and the environmental movements against each other. when like the people being affected were not the ones who were working at that plant, but they were the poor communities around these plants who had to deal with the horrible air pollution that was happening for months because the plant was non-operational.
Right.
And that U.S. Steel decided to just eat the fines, remain operational, and spew the pollution into the area.
Yep.
Like, and like, there are some, legitimate concerns and issues around that stuff. The rhetoric I have with Fetterman on that, he spoke about the winter dinner last year with Democrats when Ro Khanna was speaking, and pretty much just like went on this like vote your jobs rant, which is just like, completely ignores the reality that we're in right now with the pollution that fracking causes, the contamination that it causes, and like the fact that like, climate change that it causes.
Right.
Like, it's just like they're yeah.
And look, the hope of Fetterman, like you talk about that campaign video, that you mentioned at the beginning, where Fetterman's kind of like, attention to those communities left behind, right? I think in a state like Pennsylvania is absolutely critical, right? But the danger in that move, right, and political, is basically saying we're going to focus on that narrow understanding of what we mean by jobs and not putting a whole picture. The opportunity there is to reframe this, right? So, I mean, if you take, say, Fetterman, who comes out strong on kind of like, like climate remediation, dealing with the climate crisis by putting the moratorium and kind of like banning fracking and kind of putting a hard push in kind of creating jobs here in Pennsylvania, targeting those specific communities for where they're going to be located. That's how you make that move. But to pit it as an either or, I mean, this was the same issue that they ran into with Summer Lee, right? I mean, we're talking about, this idea about the, say, environmental pollution in that district around Braddock and that stuff, where you're actually, talking about residents being directly impacted versus the good paying jobs at the plant, right? That can't be. That's an old script that needs to be transcended at this point, right? And I think that's a move that's got to be made. Otherwise, it's going to be to Fetterman's own detriment if that's what if he really wants to be the senator. So,
yeah,
whatever.
So, I mean, there's going to be some. I mean, like there are some legitimate concerns, but we'll see.
Yep. But good news is that on the flip side of things, Dougie's back in the news.
Yeah, Senate Democrats, House Democrats renewed their calls for Mastriano to be investigated and expelled from the chamber. I think this is a good thing to keep on bringing this up. Seeing the interest around Mastriano and his role in the insurrection. We'll see what's going to be coming down the pike with the media pretty soon. But there's a lot of buzz around Mastriano right now. Locally and nationally. So, we'll see what gets reported on and, his connections and how far they go.
Yeah, exactly. Frankly, I'm glad he fucked up because, I mean, by exposing that, right, by exposing him publicly to this stuff now, I think is going to make it that much harder for him to win the nomination, right? Or
oh no, I think he wins nomination.
Yeah, I meant I was about to correct myself. I mean, to kind of actually compete
against Shapiro,
against Shapiro, right? Or if there's
I think the stuff that's happening now, especially with Mastriano and other Republicans, like with the money connections between Jeffrey Yass, the Commonwealth Foundation, and how they're funding the insurrectionists and stuff like that. Like this is stuff that like should not be going away and stuff that shouldn't go away. This is also stuff that like Democrats should use and decide not to use this research over the past year. like some districts like out here in central Pennsylvania, like John DeSanto, Democrats ran like their main ad by attacking DeSanto was going against the yoga room that he voted for in the budget, which anyone who voted for the budget voted for the yoga room versus like how this guy's been profiting off the fucking COVID shutdown and stuff like that.
Right.
Like, here is something, let's use it. Let's not use some stupid fucking item in the budget or like instance. Like, you know what I mean? But
Absolutely.
it's pretty much all I gotta say.
Yeah. So let's I love the fact that they're kind of staying hard on Mastriano. I think that's got to continue to go. I'm liking seeing some of this kind of like stop and go spine in the PA Democratic Party, or at least kind of elements of it, which is pretty awesome. Okay, Seth Grove. Let's get on to Seth Grove.
Yes, Representative Seth Grove.
Any opportunity to talk about Seth Grove is a good opportunity in my mind.
Well, he has COVID right now, or he's been quarantining, so he wasn't at his committee hearing.
Houston, we've had a problem.
Sorry.
What's that?
It's like, Houston, we got a problem. Yeah.
But Representative Seth Grove is a board member with the American Legislative Exchange Council, also known as ALEC. There's an amazing website called Documented, which I believe is part of the Center for Media and Democracy family of websites.
I think that's right. Yeah.
They've been getting a lot of really good documents, like actual, like hard evidence of people's connections to emails and stuff like that to the American Legislative Exchange Council. Seth Grove is a board member. So they published a couple of emails where it's just him and a few others and the CEO of ALEC talking about this creation of this election integrity commission or process working group that focuses on election issues. This is back in August of 2019. And like, so it lays out the narrative that like these people, Seth Grove involved, who's now the committee chair of the House State Government Committee in Pennsylvania, which oversees the election issues and where attacks on voter rights are going to come from over the next several years. He's been part of this national push to do this. And, ALEC may seem small to people, and we might be haven't really get that much attention since 2012, 13, when the attacks on Wisconsin have been happening. But, these people are still around. They're still doing this shit. And they still have Republicans in key states in influential positions to attack voting rights and to pretty much attack everything else they want to do. He's a board member. As Seth Grove was spreading his conspiracies about Dominion back in November, December, he was meeting with these people.
Yeah. And
he was meeting with people trying to overturn the election and meeting with co-operatives doing this stuff.
Well, Ari Berman was on Majority Report this week, and he was basically raising the flag. I mean, Ari Berman, of course, who's basically, one of the best observers of what's going on with voting rights, is kind of basically literally written a book on it, has been basically trying to call attention to exactly this, that we're going to see this uptick of the next round of voter suppression tactics. So,
yeah. So.
Very cool. So there you have it. Anything else on Grove?
Nothing really too much. There was a committee hearing yesterday, and Malcolm Kenyatta asked the new Auditor General if he thought the elections were free and fair, and he said he really couldn't answer that because he was here to talk about the Sure system.
I'm telling you, I love what Kenyatta is doing on the floor. I mean, the questions the questions he's asking or the responses he's giving, man, I'm just loving it.
And he's awesome, in committee, him questioning people in committee when he's just not giving statements, but he's asking very poignant questions.
Yeah.
I mean, there was a point in yesterday's committee where Russ Diamond went off on pre-canvassing, and so Kenyatta started asking about pre-canvassing, and they try to cut him off, and Margot Davidson is excuse me, someone else was just talking about pre-canvassing. I think it's only fair if he
right.
And pretty much the people that they brought in, the Republican zone testifiers, said, yeah, you know what, pre-canvassing would have helped in Pennsylvania if they would have had it. Which is
you gotta love it.
It's fun watching that stuff play out in committees, the savviness,
Yep.
So yeah.
No, and it's good to see that. It's good to see that kind of stuff here. I'm reminded of you remember kind of early on, Leanne Kruger, some of the questions that she was asking in committee and some of the kind of probing stuff that she was doing then, what kind of similar kind of reminds me of some of the stuff that Kenyatta is doing, just in this kind of very pointed way, kind of stuff that we see AOC doing at the national level, right? Using those kind of Katie Porter in different ways, obviously, but very, very cool. Speaking of Representative Malcolm Kenyatta, he is the keynote speaker at today's Gender and Sexual Minorities Conference at Kutztown University. Unfortunately, it's taking place from 10 to 2, so by the time you actually hear this, it's going to be over. It was just announced for us this week. Otherwise, I would have let everybody know on a podcast last week. That was too bad. I was thrilled, but I was also disappointed I couldn't be there through today. So. But very cool. I'm glad to see him there. And I know that he's got a lot of fans at Kutztown, especially among some of the student body, which is really kind of good to know. So cool. Next up, this week was also a big week because you had 28 state legislators, announce the call to action for the people's budget. That you've got folks right on the top of this, right? You got Rick Kajewski, Elizabeth Fiedler, Nikhil Saval, Sarah Innamorato, Chris Rebb, Katie Muth, Danielle Otten, Summer Lee, Jessica. I could go on and on, right? It's a list of who's who and is. But this is.
You also have Democrats like Dan Deasy and others. You said they were on there, right?
Yeah. So you've got Dan Deasy. We got Lindsey Williams, of course. Sharif Street's on here. Amanda Capoletti's on here. Tim Kearney's on here. So you've got some of the people that you would imagine are
most of these people were elected within the past 2 sessions too.
Exactly what I was going to say. Yes, exactly. You're talking about this is like the new energy, right? This is it. And it should also be said, like, not everybody on that list is your immediate go-to in your brain about like, oh yeah, here's the kind of like this group of kind of like this.
And it's also the great work that We the People and Pennsylvania Budget and Policy Center have been doing this. Kadita and Mark Steer have been doing great jobs. Adrian and all that stuff, Jeff, like they've been working on, this is one of the projects they've been working on for every year for the past couple of years. And now I feel like it's coming towards a critical mass with like getting your progressives on board, but also like, this is where the energy of the party is going.
Right. And this is the idea. What we get here in this people's budget is that they're taking up the baton, right? And that's the difference here. Because if you remember, look at all the rallies for the people's budget that have been in Harrisburg over the past several years, right? Is that you had those organizations that you just mentioned, right? They're the ones who are generally holding the rallies, right? They're the ones who are trying to draw attention to the people's budget. And then, yes, you'll have some legislators that will come in and will speak at that rally. What this marks in my mind, right? This basically sets it down and says, look, we have got a group of legislators who are now going to champion this. And we're going to move it forward. And we're not just 1 or 2 or 3, right? We're 28. And this is like 28 as of now. And those 28 have signed their name on this, right? Which is phenomenal. And I have to say it, I mentioned this to you, when we talked earlier this week, I was saying what is really telling about the thought that went in this. This is not just like kind of like, tear it all down, everything sucks, we need something completely different kind of approach. What they are acknowledging, say, look, there's a lot that's going on in Governor Wolf's budget. It's perfectly timed, of course, because Governor Wolf just released the budget. It's perfectly timed. They kind of followed it up, say, look, a lot of stuff what Governor Wolf said is right on the money, and we support that. However, right, we need to do more. Right, we need to have a budget which is primary focus of the working families of Pennsylvania, working people of Pennsylvania. Right. And it's amazing. I think about the arc of the past several years to get to this point where we're seeing this kind of push from these folks. And, I was just going back to thinking about, when you interviewed Summer Lee, Sarah Innamorato, and Elizabeth Fiedler. And
people were laughing at me for that by saying in Harrisburg that these 3 women were going to win.
Yep.
And everyone's like, no.
Yep. And they sat down and they got the interview. I think the interview is still over on Raging Chicken. I should actually plug that in here too as well if people want to see that original interview. But Sean put up that interview, kind of interviewed them, and Sean was saying, yep, they're going to win. They're going to win. And they won. Right. And that was kind of like the shockwaves that first went through Pennsylvania.
It's actually
politics.
pretty funny when I was talking to Sarah at this PA Stands Up conference last year in March. Pre-COVID, she came up and thanked, like, hey, you're one of the first people to actually believe in us, which was awesome.
Yep. And it was, and you remember, it's like, and that, and where we are now, the fact that you've got like Summer Lee, Sarah Innamorato, and Elizabeth Fiedler are now have been around the block a few times, right? Like in
And then, like, I mean, we have Malcolm Kenyatta from that same class. We have
exactly.
we now have Jessica Benham, and
Was Lindsey Williams? Did she come in then too as well?
yep, she came in that year. Same with Katie Muth came in that year. Tim Carney came in that year. Santa Ciro, like a lot of really good Democrats came. You saw the ideological shift.
Yeah.
Of the Democratic Party. You know, you have Democrats and all who are the same age groups as these women and, you know, who just got elected and these progressives, but the philosophy is a lot different, you know, than the people who were elected back in 2008 or 2010, you know, where they still believe in the art of the backroom deals and stuff like that.
Right. I mean, so this is a big deal. So we're going to look for more of this. They set the announcement out. I'm sure that this is going to be we're going to see a kind of an increase in activity around the people's budget. And I think that with this group of folks as their spokespeople and kind of pushing forward kind of say legislation, this is going to get really interesting. So I can imagine some of the budget hearings that are coming up are going to be extra interesting because of this. So we shall see. The one thing I wanted to give, I want to give a little bit of a shout out here too as well. We'll see where this is going to go. I don't really have it here. Oh, there it is. So also, and Sean knows this too as well. This is one thing that showed up, and you talk about gearing up towards the budget fights that are kind of moving forward. You got this kind of new. Kind of umbrella organization called Save Our State Schools was kind of made its announcement this week. You can follow them on Twitter at Our State Schools, and basically this is a push, right, to basically foreground what's the destruction that is going on at the Pasha universities under Chancellor McDreamy. Chancellor Greenstein. So kind of check that out. We'll see what comes out of this. You can also check out their website at saveourstateschools.org. And hopefully that this is going to become an avenue by which we're going to see some organizing kind of feed into. And, you know, my kind of encouragement to everybody out there, who students, faculty, staff members, alumni who have been fighting and organizing throughout the years, right, against the austerity in higher education, against the kind of lies that have come out, the budgetary lies that have come out from Pashi, all those folks who've been organizing around this. This is an opportunity to get in there, right, and join with others to kind of fight. And I'm not saying that, again, this is the organization that you need to take your orders from or something like this, but I'm saying this is an opportunity to connect with each other, right? There are students have been organizing for years that I've worked with some of these students. We've seen faculty have been organizing for years, that we need to find ways of kind of like being pointed on this. And anytime we see something like this kind of emerge itself, hey, you know what? We're gonna push this organization to as well, right? Push this as well to take up some of the issues that have been raised in the campuses and lend our voices to that fight. So that's my little kudos to there. I'll also say that that we'll have, if you didn't check out this past week's Out the Coop Live, I'll warn you ahead of time that it was way in the weeds. I went back and reviewed some of the reporting that I had done with Raging Chicken over the years, specifically focusing on how some of the origins of things going awry in Pashi. If you recall, way back in 2011, 2012, 2013, I've done a ton of reporting on how the Pashi University presidents, as well as the State Center for Higher Education Chancellor's Office, have used deceptive budgetary practices as a way to kind of pulling the wool over a lot of people's eyes, and so that they could raise tuition, eliminate faculty, eliminate programs, and divert monies to projects that would help out those university presidents and those chancellors look good, like pretty buildings and stuff like this. So if you want to get in the weeds a little bit on that, you can check it out. I also posted a kind of a condensed video to our YouTube channel, which is focusing specifically on this policy change the Board of Governors was there. Why am I bringing that up now? Well, you also saw Chancellor Greenstein was back on Capitol Hill with state legislators talking about the plans to consolidate several universities, and once again, basically was there to give a whole lot of spin about the crisis in the state system of higher education universities. So, for example, one of the big ones was this. I'll kind of point to this. Abscuff did some live tweeting during this, and this is kind of one of the tweets. So the state system chancellor, Dan Greenstein, begins his opening remarks. Universities are cultural and economic lifebloods for communities, he says. In the past decade, they have lost 21% of enrollment, he says. We've talked about this on the show before. They 21% enrollment. The reason why he's focusing on that is because a decade ago was a high peak of enrollment because of a demographic bump, right, in the population. And everybody across the country knew this was coming. Everybody in the state system of higher education knew it. In Pennsylvania knew it was coming. We were told this at the local level at, say, at Kutztown, that expect this. Things are going to get hard. We're going to see this enrollment, but it's going to drop off. What Jamie Martin has done, she's the president of Abscuff. She has mentioned this before in past Board of Governors meetings. Once again, if you look at this over 20 years and not 10, you actually see a fairly level graph of steady increase in enrollment. You don't see a 21% drop off, right? So this is a perfect example of the way that Greenstein is using selective data points as a way of accomplishing an end. And what that end is, I don't know, other than basically putting another feather in his cap so that he can kind of be the new guru when it comes to higher education. You got me. But I bet you there's going to be a book deal that's coming out of this, or a little institute, nice little cozy little think tank position after this one, for what he does here, bringing the whole Silicon Valley disruptiveness with a smile to Pennsylvania. So look what's going on. Basically in there, we're finding that, in the consolidation of the universities, he's got a whole lot of kind of, spin about how this is going to be great. But when legislators even kind of press them for specifics, he just basically, oh, that's coming up. Right, which is kind of what we expect. Last thing I want to point out, once again, I mentioned this at the top of the show, is that we got a kind of cool candidate who's emerging out of Lehigh Valley. He's going to be running for Lehigh Valley County Commissioner. If I remember right, he ran once as a write-in candidate, but now he's actually going to be running for Lehigh Valley's county as a county commissioner. He's going to have a launch event on February 18th at 7 p.m. There's a Facebook event site event that is going to be, and a link to a Facebook event that will be in the show notes today. Go check that out. I'm going to reach out to him, see if we could get him on the show. I'd love to hear what's going on. I'd love to have, anytime we have more progressive, more left voices in the Lehigh Valley, I'm all ears. So, is there anything else we got going on in the state of Pennsylvania, Sean?
No, but did you see that Twitter permanently banned Project Veritas?
No.
Yesterday?
Really?
Yes. Violating their doxing standards and spreading misinformation. So
there we go. Once again.
Love to see it.
Twitter, taking the lead on cancel culture. There we go. All right. Well, this is Kevin Mahoney, editor and founder of Raging Chicken. I want to remind you to become a patron for as little as $5 a month. Go to patreon.com/rcpress and become a patron today, or drop us a one-time contribution by going over to paypal.me/rcpress. We'll be right back after this quick break with this week's, oops, that's not the one I wanted. I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself here. Right back for this quick break with this week's Last Call. Welcome back to Raging Chicken's Out the Coop podcast. It's our last call. We talk beer news, we talk space news, we talk whatever kind of fun stuff that's going on. Yes, and I think that we just got to start off with just one big fuck Tom Brady. I think that's
I will say one thing. I do like Gronkowski, and how much of a goofball he is. If there's one lovable idiot out there, it's definitely Gronkowski. Dude is just a total meathead, but he's not like a douche, a frat douche about. You know what I mean? like you can tell he's having fun. He just won his 4th Super Bowl, but like it is fun watching him like have fun because he is like he's just absolutely hilarious, like off the wall.
Yeah.
So that's all I gotta say about that.
And, I'll just say, I mean, I kind of half watched the Super Bowl this year. I mean, frankly,
I had the feeling going in that like I was not surprised by the outcome.
I was
of it.
not either.
I was just like, I had the feeling going in is like, yeah, fucking, he's gonna do this again, like. Because he's Tom Brady and he's spite driven. And
yeah, exactly.
Like,
I mean, he's fueled by spite, right? I mean, just like resentment and whatever. So whatever. I mean, yeah, they won the Super Bowl, great. And I confess to Sean that that when I was growing up, Tampa Bay Buccaneers were my like one of my second favorite teams. It used to be like second favorite. I was always grew up a Steelers fan. The like Miami Dolphins were like my second favorite for a while, but it was the Buccaneers, and I think that I started following the Bucs in part because they were so horrible, right? I mean, they were for so long, right? And I just started watching them, and then started following them, and then when they got good for a very short period of time, I was like thrilled and stuff. But the fact that Tom Brady was there now too as well, just like that's an insult to injury in my mind. But I gotta say, he's fantastic. I mean, he's just an amazing player. And I can't stand him, but both of those things are true.
Yeah. So
anyways, that's really all I got to say about the big game, right? So whatever. I did install like, originally I was watching halftime. I did install cabinets in my basement. So that was my big work over the weekend, which was a lot of fun to do. I hadn't done like a big cabinet project like that in a long time. I did something in my last house, but so that was kind of cool. Fun to get up and running. And I did have, I have like Roku, right? So I don't have cable either, but I run through Roku. And of course, my original Roku that I had crapped out Saturday night. Right. So it was like Sunday morning, I went and I had to get like a new thing to for the TV. So, I did, so I have a little Roku stream bar now, which is pretty freaking awesome. I've got to say, it's actually like a sound bar and a Roku thing all in one. And the sound is pretty awesome, and it's like nice and streamlined. Gets rid of a bunch of other crap all over the place. So I was happy about that.
I bought my camera lens this morning for the second time.
Oh, Sean!
So like I bought my camera lens from B&H Photo, or I put my order in from B&H after Christmas, and here like they were all out of the lenses and they were back ordered, and they were supposed to be in by like the beginning middle of January.
Yeah, and
called back when I was going home for the inauguration. They said like it won't be until like the end of the month, so you'll be fine. Called when I got back. Called beginning of the month. Called the beginning of February. They said it wouldn't be until next week, and here we are. It's next week. So I was able to pretty much like find a used copy of it, and it's like pretty much like one, I didn't have the patience to wait for it because if you're shipping it, if they're getting shipped in and made right now,
right,
there's a lot of production issues going on with Canon and everyone else right now because of COVID around the world. We are still in this global pandemic. So and the issues going on with the shipping carriers. So I went to Adorama, which is they have like the best used gear around, which is where I got my camera and my 70-200 lens, and I was able to get it through that. So I ordered it. I called B&H Photo, said, hey, sorry, I just need to cancel my order. I was able to find a copy that I can have it pretty much like within next week. And the guy said, hey, no problem. Glad you found your lens, and we can cancel the order for you right now, which is awesome.
Yeah.
Like no questions asked. And, really great service from them for that.
Yeah, no, totally.
Like no questions asked, like, hey, congratulations on finding it, and it was pretty much the type of thing where it's just like, I didn't want to wait till because I was reading up that like Canon's been having production issues all this year with their new bodies that are coming out, like people waiting 5 or 6 months for like their lenses and their bodies to come in just because of like the COVID issues.
Yeah.
And the production lines, we're an international economy. So, should have my lens in next week.
That's pretty awesome.
Super excited for it. Oh yeah. I mean, I'll be going back to B&H Photo. Like, there's still things I need to get for my camera. I need to get a new tripod because support the weight of a full frame body, and then I want to get some filters like a neutral density filter, which
Mhm.
I'm going to be looking forward to using that. Because I'm looking to do a lot more video work, and then I'm going to get a Steadicam
Yeah.
mount. So looking to do more video work and maybe some like vlogging.
Well, okay. Let me tell you this. If you decide to do some of that stuff, right, especially if you're going to do it from home or kind of like a particular place, if you find yourself in the need of a ring light, let me know. All right, because I have.
So I don't think about doing that stuff. I'm thinking about more or less like I want to do a lot. So like, with work this year, one of the goals I want to have is teaching myself how to do like video stuff, and looking forward to getting more video content available for when the Capitol reopens. Sometime this year. And I want to have that equipment there because it'll be great having like good video from these events, these rallies and stuff like that,
Right.
where we're shifting towards more of a media format, and looking forward to doing this. So
Yeah, I'm just putting that offer out there. If you decide you do that,
I
ahead of
hate
time.
those ring lights.
Well, this one is actually it's pretty good. And when I used it for a bit when we're doing our podcast, and it just the setup of how I have my space, my tiny little hole set up. It just there wasn't really a good place to put it. So I never mounted the camera. Well, actually, I did for a bit, but I didn't like it as
So
much.
like my issue with the ring lights are,
Yeah,
like if you watch the video, you get like the ring, you get the discs.
you don't do that. But
Okay,
that's
okay.
here's the deal, right? So that if I've done, believe me, I've done so many video like tech tutorials trying to figure out lighting stuff. What I was doing with that is basically you put it off at an angle and high. Right, so that you're not getting the kind of rings in the eyes and glasses and that kind of stuff. And
Yeah.
so what's nice, it's got a nice adjustable kind of like brightness and whether you want to go kind of more soft light or harsh light. And it's got a fantastic tripod, and it's a bigger one. It's not one of the little tiny ones. So I'm just saying, if you ever have the use for one, I've got one, and I'm not using it right now. I can't say that it will always be the case, but it is right now. So
I think one of the things I want to do is get studio lights. Like actual, like the boxes and the diffusers and stuff like that, because this is the type of thing where I have that wall behind me that's a white wall, and I would love to, maybe start doing headshots or different things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So, no, I'm definitely I'm looking forward to building up my my camera equipment. I want to focus on video production because it's pretty much like a skill that I got the camera.
right, no, totally, absolutely.
And it's like something that I wanted to use. And also like having a Steadicam, like my next thing is to get a Steadicam because that has a mount on the top and it also has like weights on the bottom. So it's like, they're heavier.
Right.
But there's a lot of things that are going to be going on this year in the Capitol where we're out in the Capitol steps where it would be awesome having great high quality video footage for everyone to use and stuff like that.
Absolutely.
So looking forward to that.
Very cool.
My goal probably within the next couple of months is again, I'm waiting for Apple to release their new M1 computers. Have you heard about this?
I have not.
Apple released the M1 chips. So,
I mean, I knew about the M1. I didn't know this was coming.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not an Apple user, right? I don't use Macs, so it's
I'm not a Mac user, but it's a lot faster. Like just for like
it's
the video.
Oh, they're great. I'm not knocking
Yeah.
it at all. I mean, if you're going to do like video production and that's going to
Yeah.
be your primary use, you can't beat it.
Yeah. So.
It's just for me, it's always been a cost issue. So it's like,
Oh no!
I still have trouble just even now, right? I mean, if I were to save for like a Mac, I mean, I'm at a point in my life where I could actually do that down the road, but I still can't bring myself to spend that kind of money on one. And so it's whatever. It's one of my
I'm at the point in my life where I don't have any expenses, so I can buy that. So I can buy that now and not worry about it. So
yeah, well, I'll tell you just to show you the differences in our lives and our moments in our lives right now. I saved up all my money to buy a snowblower. I bought the and I think I mentioned this last week, but I bought the the company's name Ego, right? Ego Power Plus stuff. Right? It's a 100% electric kind of rechargeable battery driven snowblower, and I for a while that's what my lawnmower has been. and it's I absolutely love this stuff. And what they pitched their company at like initially was, we're going to run at the same horsepower and we're going to be as powerful as kind of gas power tools. You hear them say that all the time, but like legit, the lawnmower is like that. It was just like I was like, okay, I'm done. I had a rechargeable one before this one. This is like hands down, it's phenomenal. Like to the point where my neighbor borrowed it once and they bought one because they're like, this is great. Right, you get rid of gas and all that stuff. So I've been holding out for the longest time because I'm a bit of a snow shoveling snob, like growing up in the snow belt and everything like this. I'm like, no, you just shovel. You get out there and shovel. That's how you build character, right? That kind of crap. I'm getting older, right? And this after that last big snowstorm, I just whatever. Everyone all the adults in our family, me and my wife, right, both kind of we're having some back issues and things, and it just kind of put us over. It's like, you know what? We shovel for our neighbors too as well because they're older. And so I was like, okay, look, now's the time to pull the trigger before I actually hurt myself or do, pull something and because I'm stubborn, I want to shovel. So
I have a heart attack. Shoveling.
I have a heart attack, right? Exactly.
It's like I'm also really looking forward to the spring getting here. So I want to get a nice table set. Nothing expensive, maybe $100, $200.
Wait, before you go, maybe I got to finish my snowblower thing before you go to the hair. Because otherwise, I'm going to talk about it again. So we're going to talk about your table set and stuff for the spring. But my point is that we got another good snow where I'm at. We got about 4.5 inches, 5 inches of snow the other day. Not a ton, but I'm like, okay, great. I can use it for the first time, and it freaking rocks. So I'm super happy. And I was like a little geek out there, going around, doing my neighbors, doing extra sidewalks and stuff like this. And and people coming by, you had the sanitation workers coming by to collect the trash. They're looking at me what is that thing? Right? People stopping what pray tell is this? Right? That is throwing snow so far. And I'm like, well, you see, this is a blah, blah, blah. So I felt like it's a total little geek boy with a snowblower that is gas free. So I was very happy with
also,
that.
one of the reasons why I pulled the trigger on the blends is because of the snow. I was so fucking pissed I didn't have it for the snow to pass.
It was beautiful.
I would love to be outside at nighttime getting those photos, a night snowfall. There's a lot of great spots in Harrisburg. So, and also when we do is I'm going to be getting a neutral density filter for that, which is it's a 10-stop filter. So pretty much a stop. The math involved is one stop is reducing your shutter speed by half or increasing it by half. So a 10-stop filter, I'll be able to shoot out at nighttime or pretty much high quality photos at a sane aperture, right? Where it's not diffracting the images. And I could then slow the shutter speed down to 3 or 4 seconds and be able to I'm looking forward to this once the spring comes because I'll be on the riverfront. There's an old dam that what the people call that people get caught up in every couple of years and it just is not anything you want to be near, but right. Having that dam and then slowing the shutter speed down to 3 seconds and be able to get that slow milky motion of the river. Looking forward to shots like that. Looking forward to getting my deck in order because I have an actual deck that's covered with trees, a nice shade most of the time. And hell, I'd love to be able to sit out front, in the springtime and sipping on my coffee and doing work on my computer.
Well, do you ever, every time you talk about this, okay, I know this is a little bit, I swear to God, it's connected. So do you ever see what they call one of these kind of small sitting rooms, in English cottages or English houses? Do you ever?
No.
They call them a snug. Right.
Okay.
So, and it's just a little place that's kind of very snuggly, right? You can sit down in kind of a little area. It's a sitting room, just feels very comfortable. I think every time you talk about it, I'm like, this is Sean's outdoor snug. you got trees around. It's going to be out there. It's going to be cozy. You're going to have all this kind of cool stuff around. It's a place where you can kind of reconnect with yourself. So,
but no, I like it because it's I'm in an area where, pretty much my area is covered by other buildings. So I'll be able to get enough, like during the middle of the day, a lot of sun will hit it, but like, evening and morning, the trees and the buildings will cover the sun, the shade. So definitely looking forward to that. I know. I mean, like, this is why I moved in the apartment upstairs. Like, I have my own office area, my own like room for my computer and shit like that. And
Right.
like, it's like, this, I'm taking advantage of this whole working from home shit during the pandemic. Even though I've been working from my apartment for the past few years, I haven't had an office job yet. That's like the best thing. That's the best thing talking to people about this. Like, oh, I had to readjust, because of the pandemic. And, how'd you readjust working from home? It's like, oh, I've been working from home for like 3 years now.
Yeah. Yeah. Could you imagine having the
air quotes working?
Right. Well, right. Exactly. Yeah. So I was going to give you a break on that one, but okay. Yeah. You said it for me. Great. Excellent. So why the hell is this not working? Okay. I was just going to say something about that.
I actually wonder what my neighbors think. Like,
totally.
When
they think you're a dealer. They think you're dealing drugs is what they think. Because he's home all the time, right? He just goes around, goes out and goes for walks with a camera and takes pictures of stuff. It's like he's either like an undercover cop or he's dealing drugs.
No, it's actually funny because it's there's the woman across the street who works in the law offices. Whenever it snows, I'm always home. It's been like that for 3 years. I always get these weird looks. She works in an office with these lawyers who don't wear masks and make her shovel the snow and stuff like that in her heels.
Are you serious?
She's not wearing heels, but yeah, they make her shovel the snow. She's in her 20s or 30s. These people are just complete assholes about it. They're total Republicans. I can only imagine what that office is like because I've heard stories from my barber, Chops. He has to deal with them at times. Mm-hmm. And I always get these looks what are you doing? You're always home. You're never always in sweatpants or gym out and shit like that. It's just
oh god. You're yep, living the dream, man. We're living the dream.
Exactly. Well, it's pretty funny. My friend calls me the Big Lebowski of Harrisburg. You're the dude, and I'm yep.
That's right. I embrace it. I welcome your scorn. Right? This is your version of it's what is it? They have hate for me, and I welcome their hatred. Right?
It's my friends are Sean, I try to tell my friends what you do. It's what do you do? And I'm I don't know.
I don't know. Right? That's pretty much it. Everybody has that question about you. What the hell does he do, actually? But I have to tell you though that kind of control over your time. I mean, one of the things that has kept me at my job as long as it has, because and it's I'm not telling anybody listening to this podcast anything new, that I've been so frustrated with my job for a while now, is the fact that I look, oh, this is a really cool job, I would love to do this kind of stuff, but I got to show up someplace at a specific time all the time, right? And I'm I don't know if I could do that anymore. Right? Because I'm I've have a job that I have to go to, right? Or right now I'm all online, but still, even with that job, there's a lot more flexibility than there is in a whole lot of other positions. Nowhere near the kind of yoga flexibility that you have in your position, right? That's for sure. Yeah. But it is what it is. Anyways, so yeah, free will, everybody. Giving me my free will update for the week. If you may have seen this, if you kind of follow their stuff at all, they did have they put out an announcement this week that kind of a while back, about a week and a half ago, maybe a little over a week ago, they had maybe about a week ago, an employee that tested positive for COVID, so they had to kind of really limit their operations there for a minute until they make sure that everything was safe. They did a great job of notifying the community, making sure everybody got tested, and they are now kind of reopened once again. In the limited capacity they had been before, after everybody has tested negative for the virus. So glad to hear that's back up and running as kind of a little bit of a celebration, I guess, of it. Trey Locally Sourced is one of their go-to food trucks that's out there. They are out there this weekend for this kind of Lovers Weekend, they're calling it, 2021. They will be there for the 12th through the 14th. beginning at 3 p.m. I think it was actually, so it was 3 p.m. today, I guess they're going to be there. Is where they start. They have a great menu. They have, again, it's like limited stuff, but great stuff. For example, they have a hot dog, local hot dog with bacon and beer, braised cabbage, horseradish, mustards, and chips. You get pierogies. You can get a chicken sandwich, marinated fried chicken with this tray sauce and stuff. You can get pork tacos, crab cake sandwich. They're there for there through the duration. There's also been some new releases. Now, if you remember last week, we couldn't give you all the new releases that they were coming out with last week because they hadn't announced them yet. But for this week, starting tomorrow, you'll be able to pick up the Blackberry Raspberry Mash. That is a sour ale with blackberry, raspberry, vanilla, and milk sugar. Ooh, and the color of it is absolutely gorgeous. They say expect the typical dense and fluffy treatment on this twist of the series. Jam, get it, packed with notes of fresh berry compote, raspberry fruit bars, and water ice. That's for Sean. Topped with vanilla custard. That comes in at about 7.5 ABV. Like anybody who listens to the show, I'm a huge fan of their mashes. The raspberry mash, I can't remember. I don't remember if they did a blackberry raspberry mash before, if it was just a raspberry mash or a blackberry mash, but the raspberry mash in the past have been phenomenal. So this is, no doubt, is going to be awesome too as well. Last week, one of the releases that I didn't get a chance to talk about was this release called 35. It's an American double IPA, and it's brewed with a variety of hops from around the globe, plentiful amounts of oats, and a touch of honey malt for color and additional sweetness. And they say, in keeping with the original idea of Sputnik, right, we utilize a higher mash temperature than ever before, as well as experimental new hop schedule designed to achieve a harmonious balance between hops and accentuated rich malt. Right, the result is a beer with characteristic representative of both current and old school IPAs, orange candy slices through and through, followed by notes of lemon pith, marmalade on light toast, and even shortbread, followed by a short-lived resin character that wraps the whole package, coming in at 8% ABV. That one sounds like a really interesting beer that's coming out. Juice Money was one of the other ones that came out with last week. That's a sour ale with plum, blackcurrant, cinnamon, cardamom, vanilla, and milk sugar. That's been, I mentioned this last week. That's part of their collab with the Imprint Beer folks. That's always a great go-to. But so you can check them out. And remember, you can go to Free Will Store anytime if you want to kind of order their stuff online, if you want to pick it up, or you want to have it delivered to you. You can do that. You can go right to their webpage. They got a great webpage at freewillbrewing.com. You click on store and you come up with freewillbrewing.store, and you can order online. If you hit that $85 amount level, if you can get it shipped for free to Pennsylvania, Virginia, and Washington, D.C. And so it's great opportunity to collaborate with some other friends. Then if you want to get some shipped right to you, do check that out. They also, I should have mentioned too as well, they came back out with COB last week, the coffee oatmeal brown ale. Which has also been increasingly good all the time, so that is available. They also have this one that I forgot to mention. It's called Fool's Gold Mash, which I haven't tried out yet, but it's a sour ale with blueberry, grape, peanut butter, bacon flavor, and milk sugar. No idea what that's going to taste like, but I would love to check it out too as well. All available at freewillbrewing.store. So, Sean, man, anything else for the good of the order?
Nothing whole much. Nothing really.
No.
I am just ready to go get some lunch. Think about going to the Broad Street Market. So
there you go. I'm gonna go get some lunch myself as I gotta finish up some of this stuff. So very cool. All right, man.
I've been using my my Le Creuset pot all the week.
Le Creuset.
It is absolutely worth it. I'm glad I spent my my stimulus check on it.
There you go.
Or a portion of it. Pretty much my stimulus check went towards that and paying my healthcare premium for the month.
We gotta claw that shit back. No. Just kidding.
I'm actually eligible without paying taxes on it, so fuck you.
Yeah, I know. I'm just joking with you. So you're gonna have to look at that. I'm gonna go eat some leftover Chinese. How's about that?
Nice.
All right, man. Well, hey, great talking to you. And remind everybody that, one, that you can help support this show by going to patreon.com/rcpress and become a patron for those $5 a month. Thank you to all our supporters and to all the folks who've been supporting us from day one, the folks that just came aboard the last couple of weeks. Couldn't do it without you. We're looking forward to some exciting stuff moving forward. We're telling Sean a little bit about this. This is like one of the good things you get if you wait to the end of the show, little tidbits here about upcoming programming. Just basically been doing a lot of researching about broadcasting to multiple platforms all at once. Is one of the kind of tricks of doing this kind of stuff is that, if you're using OBS, which is kind of what I do to kind of set up the show, you can only stream to one location at a time. So I've been looking for some other ways around this and came across a platform. I'll tell you a little bit more about it maybe next week if it seems to be working all right, just so that we can reach more people with this. It's been always one of my intentions is to continue to expand this and expand our reach, which is cool. Hopefully with the next couple days too, I'll have some announcements for you about some of the upcoming shows and Out the Coop Live. But just take a look at us, follow us on Twitter at RC Press, hit us up on Facebook. And the one thing that you can do that would help us out tremendously too is you head on over to our YouTube page. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. Make sure you hit that bell so you know every time that we go live. What, you got something come up?
Oh, that's amazing. So NBC 10,
Yeah.
There's a scandal like happened. They use they had a modified what they ran the Philadelphia Police Department logo, and it says like honor, integrity, and service. They end up running the shield that said it said coffee, corruption, donuts on it.
Oh my God. Somebody was on their last day. Awesome. All right, man. Well, take it easy, everybody. Thank you all for tuning in. Look forward to seeing you again next week right here on Out the Coop Live, our flagship show. And we'll see you on Monday for, I missed our Out the Coop Live. Yeah, Out the Coop Live on Monday. I'm all messed up. I'm hungry. I need to go get some food. Thanks for tuning in. See you next week.